This is a Bergen Film Club podcast.
Like an old movie removed from the frame, I am floating and looking for someone to blame. Won't you project me on the walls of your heart? I'm waiting for the real thing to start.
Hello! Welcome to The Real Thing. My name is Joe Lawrence. I will be your host. This podcast is an extension of Bergen Film Club, which is an independent cinema in Bergen, Norway. This podcast talks about the films that are included in the Bergen Film Club's hand-picked program, and we talked about why they're cool, expand, give context, interview people, all that stuff. Wow, it feels like it's been a really long time since I did an episode, which is absolutely true. It has been a month. We took a bit of a hiatus for a number of reasons. Not that I have to give a reason. This is my podcast. But we had something happening at Bergen Film Club. We got a new projector, which took up some time, but we've now successfully installed it. Very lovely. We also hosted Bergsem, where a bunch of film clubs from around Norway came to Bergen, and we hosted them for the weekend just to talk all about film clubs and the future and everything, and just mingle and get to know each other, which was very fun and tiring, and there was a lot of energy. So I took a bit of a step back from the podcast just to recuperate. I'm also studying, allegedly, and there's a lot to unpack. There is some really cool stuff happening also. I've been so lucky to talk to not one but two directors, two real life directors who will be on the podcast. I'll be releasing those interviews in the coming weeks, which is really exciting. And we've been kind of like resetting, realigning our podcast chakras in a way. We also have a new member of the podcast family, Andreas Molding, who, great guy. We at Bergen Film Club love him, and he's going to be here on the podcast now as a researcher, helping me produce some of the episodes. So, all really exciting. Andreas, if you're listening, hi. Really excited to do more with you, and it's all really exciting stuff. But we just had to take some time just to reset and see, like, where's the podcast going, and get these director interviews out of the way. And so it's all exciting stuff. So don't worry if you were worrying. The podcast is still happening, and from here on out, it'll be back to the weekly episodes. This episode will be coming out on Easter Monday, so happy Easter for those who celebrate. I will not be celebrating, but I hope everyone's having a nice holiday, taking a break, and getting into some podcasts, I hope, again. This is so fun. It's literally been a month since I've been sitting with my microphone alone in my apartment. Wow. So before we get started with kicking off a new era of the podcast with Andreas, and the director interviews and all that exciting stuff coming, we've got some other lovely, exciting stuff lined up with some people that we've talked to on the podcast before, about some things happening in Bergen, and it's going to be really cool, and it'll be back. And so I'm only back for a little bit. We decided to do kind of a short episode today, an episode that has kind of been hanging over me for a while. I wanted to talk about the Indian filmmaker Sai Paranjpye. For the record, I don't know how to say her last name. I tried to find out, and Sai Paranjpye is just what I'm going with, so that's what we're going for. Bergen Film Club showed a bunch of her movies last year in the fall semester of 2023. and before that. And yeah, so I just wanted to give a little kind of insight into who she is and talk a little bit about these films. And yeah, so let's get into it. So we used a bunch of different sources for this, which you can find in our show notes. Yeah, let's get started. Who is Sai Paranjpye? Just for the record, still alive and kicking, legend. Google some photos of her, she looks like a really fun person. Born in 1939 in Mumbai, Sai Paranjpye is widely known as the first major female film director in India and is amongst India's internationally known screenwriters and directors. The first major woman filmmaker of Hindi cinema, Sai Paranjpye came from a family of pioneers and social reformists. She is particularly known for the comedies she directed in the 1980s, namely Sparsh in 1980, Chashme Budur in 1981, and Kathka in 1983, which are regarded as some of the best Indian comedies and dramas from the era, and BFK showed these throughout 2023. She grew up in a family that was both artistic and politically engaged and charged. Her father, Yura Sleptsov, was a Russian artist, and her mother, Shakunantala Paranjpye, was an Indian actor, and they divorced shortly after her birth, so she grew up in India with her mother. Sai's mother was an actor who starred in a lot of films from the 1930s and 40s, which are now considered classics of Indian cinema. Shakunantala was also a member of the Indian Parliament, serving between 1958 to 64 and 64 to 70, so 2 long terms in the Parliament. Before Sai began her career as a famous director, she wrote fairy tales, in which she started doing so at the age of 8. After finishing school, Sai studied at the National School of Drama, NSD, and then she went to work in radio and wrote and directed several plays in Hindi, Marathi, and English for both adult and child audiences, as well as writing several children's books at this time as well. In the 1970s, she started directing TV films, and she served twice as the chairperson of Children Film Society of India. Sai's feature film was Sparsh in 1980, which was followed by comedies Chashme Budur and Kathka after that. She continued to direct popular movies throughout the 90s and the 2000s. She's also directed several documentaries, often which focus on social problems. Her documentary Chudian in 1993 on anti-liquor agitation in Maharashtra won the National Film Award for the best film on social issues. In 2009, she made a documentary film Sue about, quote, the lives of injecting drug users and the HIV stigma and discrimination they face in India, end quote. This documentary was aired on World AIDS Day, which is the 1st of December, and that was shown in 2009. She recently wrote a biography, and Andreas wrote that she is alive and kicking, which she absolutely is. Although Sai has stated in interviews that she dismisses the title of female director, and that, as she has put it with her own words, quote, wherever I go, I am never allowed to forget that I am a woman filmmaker, end quote. Many viewers and scholars of Indian cinema have taken a newfound interest in her films as examples of the female gaze in Indian film. So yeah, great movies. I remember that I really loved Sparsh, which we'll come to talk about. But yeah, very politically active old lady, just doing good, putting goodness out into the world and being overall a really cool person. So just going to go through the synopsis, making of, and a historical context of her 3 most popular films. And then I also thought that it might be fun to talk a little bit about the filmmakers today that are kind of up and coming in Indian cinema, who are greatly inspired by the work of Sai Paranjpye. So starting with Sparsh from 1980, this is a drama that revolves around the relationship between the blind principal of a school for the blind, Anirudh Parmar, played by Nasiruddin Shah, and a sighted teacher, Kavita Prasad, played by Shabana Azmi. Their intentions challenge societal norms and perceptions about disability, love, and empathy. So directed by by Sai, Sparsh is known for its sensitive portrayal of disability and its impact on human relationships. Paranjpye's meticulous attention to detail and her ability to create authentic characters help bring depth to the narrative. Nasruddin Shah's portrayal of a blind man earned critical acclaim, showcasing his versatility as an actor. The film's cinematography and music also contributed to its emotional resonance. The music in this film is so effing good. I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed this film. Definitely go watch it if you haven't seen it. In terms of context, it was released during a period of Indian cinema known for its parallel cinema movement, which focused on realistic portrayals of social issues. The film addressed these themes of disability and inclusion at a time where such topics were rarely explored in the mainstream Bollywood. Its success paved the way for more nuanced narratives in Indian cinema to become after that. But really, it's such a beautiful film, and kind of like this discussion around a non-disabled person being in any kind of relationship with a disabled person, and that there shouldn't be this respect to the non-disabled person who's being almost like a savior in a way for being with a disabled person. And this film just really just talks about like the love that they share, or they try to share, and the prejudices that they have, like against themselves, like this inbuilt ableism in a way, but also outwardly how society views them as well. So the second of her big three is Chashme Budur, which was released in 1981. It is a classic comedy that follows the lives of three friends played by Farooq Sheikh, Rakesh Bedi, and Ravi Baswani as they navigate love, friendship, and mischief. Their lives turn humorous when they encounter Neha, played by Dipti Naval, leading to a series of comical misunderstandings and adventures. So this film is celebrated for its witty screenplay and memorable characters. Paranjpye's knack for crafting light-hearted yet meaningful stories shine through in this film. The camaraderie between the lead actors and the film's breezy narrative style contributed to its enduring popularity. It arrived in a time when Bollywood was exploring new genres and experimenting with storytelling techniques. The film's refreshing take on friendship and romance appealed to audiences across generations, making it a cult classic in Indian cinema. Now we're going to come to Katha, which was released in 1983. It is a comedy drama that revolves around the lives of two friends, Rajaram, played by Nasruddin Shah, and Bashidev, played by Farooq Sheikh from the previous movies, who fall for the same woman, Sandhya, played by Dipti Naval. Set in a chawl, which is a type of residential building in Mumbai, the film explores themes of friendship, love triangles, and social dynamics with humour and warmth. It is praised for being an endearing and engaging storyline. Paranjpye's skillful direction and ability to infuse everyday situations with humour and heart set the tone for this film. The performances of the lead actors, along with Paranjpye's insightful screenplay, contribute to the film's success. It came during a time when Bollywood was witnessing a surge in offbeat and character-driven films. The film's portrayal of middle-class life and its exploration of the human relationships resonated with audiences, establishing it as a beloved gem of cinema. These films showcase Sai Paranjpye's directorial prowess and reflect the societal and cinematic landscapes of their respective times, making them enduring classics in Indian cinema. And basically they all kind of came around at the same time, so I guess kind of talking about when they came out is because they came out in like a 4-year period. But it's still like she was kind of, whilst not every film is like the most challenging or kind of confronting theme, in a way it was still stuff that hadn't really been done before, like exploration of certain relationships, or kind of almost like slow cinema, I guess, kind of bringing that element of life. So yeah, she was very cool. But yeah, I just, a little shorty episode here. I just thought just a little highlight on her. But now we can talk very quickly about the the main Indian directors now who have been quite inspired by Sai Paranjpye. So first we have Rajkumar Hirani, who's known for films like Munabai and BBS, Three Idiots and PK. His movies blend comedy and social commentary, much like Sai Paranjpye. His films tackle serious issues in a lighthearted manner, resonating with audiences across generations, much like Sai's movies. Secondly, we have Shujit Sekhar, the director of films such as Vicky Dona, Piku, and October. Sai Paranjpye's penchant for realistic storytelling and focus on character-driven narratives. His films often delve into the complexities of human relationships, a trait which is often infused in Sai's own work. Next we have Ayan Mukherjee, who's known for Wake Up Sid, The Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. He has cited Sai Paranjpye as one of his main influences, and his films often feature youthful characters navigating life's complexities, echoing what we see in films like Chashme Badur and Katha. Gauri Shinde, who has directed films English Vinglish and Diya Zindagi, draws inspiration from Sai's ability to infuse humour into thought-provoking narratives. Like Sai Paranjpye, Shinde's films often focus on women's experiences and social expectations and societal expectations, presenting them in a relatable and empathetic manner. Lastly, we have Zoya Akhtar, who's known for the films Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Gully Boy, who's been massively influenced by Sai Paranjpye's emphasis on authentic storytelling and multidimensional characters. Akhtar's films often depict the complexities of human emotions and relationships against the backdrop of contemporary Indian society, equality. Very reminiscent of Paranjpye's oeuvre. So yeah, like, her legacy still lasts, and like Andreas and I have said, she's very much alive, still kicking, still writing, just being a cool lady. But I hope that people will want to see some of her movies. I really recommend Sposh. That's like, you know, I'm gonna throw this probably in my top 40 films ever. If that's saying anything. Yeah, but just a little short episode, like I said, and we're gonna be back with like normal business very soon, and yeah, I'm really excited for those director interviews to come out, and just where we're gonna go with the podcast. There's some cool stuff coming, and yeah, shout out to the film club for letting me do this, shout out to me for doing this, shout out to Andreas, and yeah, thank you for listening. This has been The Real Thing. See you next week. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
This has been a Bergen Film Club production. Our music is by Wise John. Check them out on Instagram at WISEJohnOfficial. Our logo is by Pia Sofia Brentersen. This episode was produced, mixed and engineered by Joel Lawrence. Our researchers are Inke Shilpkai-Ben and Mamina Nazmajid. Want to talk to us about films? Then please send us an email at podcast@bergenfilmclub.com. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at TheRealThingPod. Check us out on Letterboxd at BFK The Real Thing. Thank you and goodbye. Listen, follow, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts.